welcome. I need the presentation beamer, please. So my name is Imanuel Schipper, and I'm talking about authenticity today. I was originally asked to talk about political spectatorship, but as soon as the beamer is ready, I don't know why this is not ready. Now, no. I need the beamer. It is not here. The thing is, truth sometimes is very concrete, and the truth is that for my first time, I think in my life, I traveled without my laptop. And this is a very interesting thing, because I was spending the last 3 days here, in the house in the mountains in Switzerland, and I prepared this thing about the political spectatorship, was starting with Schiller, how he used political transformed by the play, and then going on to Brecht, how he's changed the form to change the political, coming into documentary theater and different forms of participationship with the spectators, and how that really came the political activity from the stage to the spectators more and more in this, let's say, more Western German theater. So this presentation is on my laptop, but it is not this one, in the house that you cannot see still, and that's why when I saw it in Vienna or here in Graz that I arrived without computer, then I was lucky to find another presentation of authenticity that I had some weeks ago. So I think you will accept this changing, because of course, what is authenticity and what has it to do with the truth? I think it's a very important thing about what is authentic. And in these last years or decades, there were a lot of shows trying to be authentic on stage. So let me share some thoughts with you about what authenticity is and how is it produced. So this contribution is based on a 15-month research project that I did, and it is a research project that's called Longing for Authenticity. It was a research of the use of the concept of the last centuries and today in performing arts. Second, it was a research of strategies of staging authenticity by accompanying several productions during their creative production process. And third, it was a research of structures of the reception of authenticity by the public through qualitative interviews. So I have 3 points that I want to show you: strategies of staging authenticity, thoughts about the concept, and the act of authentication by the public. Just before I want to start, I want to make some remarks of my person. I'm just starting now without the presentation and hope maybe it will follow me in some time. So I want to make some remarks, not because I think that I'm incredible exciting, but I think it's quite important in which context I'm approaching this problem. So I was brought up, as I said, in Switzerland. I'm not a scientist, and after my studies as an actor and some years of standing on stage in front of a camera as an actor, I started to work as a dramaturg on several state theaters in Germany and Switzerland. And for example, in the Schauspielhaus Hamburg, I got a chance to program a separate stage which was hosted in a former cinema, something like this, a little bit smaller. In that position, I got in contact with the Rimini Protocol, and I collaborated with them in several projects. So now this seems to work somehow. I try to take this. Here we go. There's where my laptop is. And this is where I was brought in Switzerland. And as I said, I'm not a scientist. but an actor, and this is the Neues Cinema in Schauspielhaus Hamburg. And this, some of you may know, maybe also because the author of that seemed to be present somewhere here around. And in one of the many after-show public conversations of a show of Rimini Protocol, I got in touch for my first time with this strange word, authenticity. And of course, I did not know what it meant. And of course, I could not pronounce, and I still have my problems with that word correctly. And after some years working as a dramaturg, also with Rimini Protocol, I have been confronted with this subject more and more in the press and panel discussions, theater directors, journalists, and mostly with theater scientists. And when they were talking to me, I always did as I would know exactly what it was meant by authenticity. So this was not the case. So some years later, I started to teach in Zurich, also with directors and artists, and I teach them something about drama and theory, and also about authenticity. And this was the moment when I noticed that I have to do something about this concept. So, why did I just do this introduction to you? Because I wanted to show you that some strategies of staging authenticity. I'm assuming that you have noticed my not very good and even faulty English and my miserable pronunciation. So this element of non-perfection confirms to you that I'm not a trained English actor who only makes it sound as if he has lived through his biography. Maybe you even have a kind of sympathy to my Swiss accent, maybe not. So I have to go back there. Where is this? So this is the non-perfection. Of course, you also saw some of the photos of the theater, and the others, one of me, of that TV movie somewhere. It verifies that it was me and who made these photos, or it is me that you can see of it. This is another authentication. Then we have biography. When biography is told, a biography that you could categorize into time and culture that gives you a feeling of, I know him somehow, or I feel close to him, that simplifies the identification with that person. The next thing is, again, photos we had already. Then the next thing is sympathy. Do you remember that I have admitted that I have not heard the term authenticity yet? That's not entirely true, but confessions, and especially this public acknowledgement of ignorance, makes me a likable person, and this feeling, sympathy maybe again, is very favorable for the process of feeling someone authentic. And last and not least, the document, the photo of the book, and the book itself works as a document. So if you use documents on the stage, it always helps to give a feel that is very authentic what we saw. So Rimini Protocol, just following by the book, is one important example for another strategy for authentic theater. As you may know, they work mostly with the so-called experts of the everyday. And of course, the plays for that reasons are not dramatic literature, but a kind of documentary theater about a specific theme like death, the court, grounding of Sabina, and. Actually, the use of non-professional performers in the context of the state theater and the having them playing on the same stage as professionals, trained actors, is one of the main points to stage authenticity, at least in the German contemporary theater. The presence of this mean is so strong that Kurzenberger speaks of the theater of authenticity as the theater of amateur actors. So let's stay for this for a second. Does it mean we just have to stage non-professionals in order to create authenticity? Does the audience really mean that this when they speak about authentic theater? Well, I don't know. But anyway, what makes the non-professional performers authentic performers? To find that out, I would like to do an experiment with you. Maybe you can put some light on the audience so that we can see each other, and I want to invite you for the experiment. If you can put some light on the audience, that would be nice. So I want you, all of you, just imagine for a moment a strong, authentic moment of your life, or a movement that you did that was very authentic, a sentence that you heard or said or thought of that was very authentic. So everybody has one? Thank you. So now I'm going to ask some of you, maybe 5 to 10 people, to come here on stage and to present, to act this authentic movement or authentic. Yes, the first are leaving. That's nice. Of course, we will not have to go on with that. It was just experiment. Thank you. We can stop with that, because I will not ask you to perform here, also because it's not possible. This experiment shows the 3 paradoxes of the concept of authenticity in the context of performing. So first, if you're thinking on an authentic moment of yourself, at that very moment, you're not able to express it authentic anymore. And a gesture that you're planning to do is, in the moment of its performance, not authentic anymore. Second, it's very hard to be authentic when you are asked to be so. Be authentic now, or be a little bit more authentic. It's like the task, please do not think at the white elephant now. And third, when you are thinking or talking of your authenticity, even if you're just observing your authenticity, then you're not authentic anymore. You are you're a reflective observant. At the same moment in which you want to be authentic, you are losing it at the same time. So what do we mean then with authentic? Non-professional performers are in a mode of self-representation that bases on a kind of not acting, in the sense of just being there. Authenticity in such a manner bases on the idea of the possibility of a reference between the I and the world that is 100% direct and free of representation. Just stick with that for a second. Between me and the world is a completely one-to-one, 100% clearly direct thing. What means or should mean that authenticity in this case is the contradiction of representation. We speak of an authentic representation, assuming that the thing what is represented by the representation is represented as it would not be a representation. But representation of the self, is it just the body or a biography, are still representations. And the representationless relation between actors and the audience, between me and you, is impossible because the space of the stage and all the context is already an intermediary body, and the stage of every performance is a self-representation of itself. So again, what do we mean with authenticity in the context of performance? We can start here with a quote of Jonathan Culler, who examined the authenticity works in the tourist industry. The paradox, the dilemma of authenticity is that to be experienced as authentic, it must be marked as authentic. But when it is marked as authentic, it is already mediated, a sign of itself, and hence lacks the authenticity of what is truly unspoiled, untouched by mediating cultural codes. It is very difficult to talk about authenticity. Everybody somehow knows what's meant by it, but the concept itself is hard to get because of the multiple use of the various areas of our life in art, media, politics, marketing, and the context of personal self-fulfillment. Whenever authenticity emerges as a description of a production, this concept serves a sort of collecting pot for the large complex of course, also truths, but natural, real, pure, direct, not put in scene, and other effects. Authenticity belongs to the semantic field of sincerity, directness, honesty, credibility, and originality. The origin, etymological origin, comes from the Greek, where auto entes means performed by his own hand, or the self-completion. The spectrum of the meanings went already in antiquity from originator to perpetrators to self-murderer that fulfills his own life with his own hand. It also has to do with the concept of authority, authorships, and autonomy. You also can use authenticity to describe a person or a thing. The meaning of a personal authenticity has something to do with credibility, sincerity, trust, honesty, but also with the feeling of being close to somebody. We also describe a person as authentic if he or she is true to her or himself. I would like to fly through different concepts that philosophers had in different times, but very roughly. One of the first persons that started to think about the concept in modern times was Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He was clear that every human being comes to the world having a kind of a nucleus that is pure and this is important for his philosophy, is completely good. During our life, we meet different peoples, for example, parents, and more evil ones, like teachers. And we lose the contact to our nucleus, or it gets covered. With other words, the society is destroying the personal authenticity, after Rousseau. What we are then, and how we are seen by others, is not authentic anymore. So Rousseau proposes that everything that is in contact with that nucleus is authentic and also is good. He also turns that around and says, an act of a person can only be good if the man is good, what means if the man is authentic. So authenticity for him is something that you have to regain. You had it once and now you have to regain it in order to be a good person and also in order to do something good. And of course, here's one thing that shows always how to be different, where people are always different characters than themselves, and that is the theater or the literature. Rousseau says, for example, that every art is exactly the opposite of being authentic. If he's looking for authenticity, then go to the nature, not to the art. The next person that I want to flip over is Nietzsche. He was asking us to become who you are, a little bit the same, and to choose to be the person we know that we already are. What means also we have to say the truth about ourselves, and we should be ourselves in the duty of the life that we have. Nietzsche sees authenticity as a way to accept the life we live, instead to lie to ourselves about the life we live. I'm jumping now to Adorno, into the 50s of the last century. He writes that he experienced that A word as a strange concept and that he wants to use it systematically. And here is how he does. First, he uses it as a term to describe some aspects of the field of aesthetics. He was the first that he was really using that systematically. This was new. And he says that the real art of work, in contrary to a piece of the work of the art industry, has some authenticity, and he means by that that the artwork has an objective commitment to something that is way more than just an accidental expression. I'm skipping the next two persons. Maybe you can come back to him later. And also this one. I want to conclude just this philosophical excursion. There is a question about if there exists something authentic in a nucleus of us or not. So example, Ferrara and Taylor, who just we flipped through, they are going back and say there must be something like that. And there seems to be a conflict between the individualism and the society. And there is a kind of moral duty to take care about authenticity. It is not quite clear if authenticity is existing or if it's constructed or just seen by others. And just to remember, we now talked all the time about the authenticity of persons. How much of these thoughts are relevant if you're talking about theater? So let's skip over to about to thinkings about authenticity of things. Maybe that's easier. Here, the A word, authenticity, could mean different things. It could be just true instead of lied. It could also mean natural instead of artificial, if you're thinking about food. Authentic could be more belonging to the nature than to civilization. It could be more real instead of fake. And it could be the original instead of the copy. So these are all different fields where you could use and where you use the word authentic. That means we use it mainly in 4 categories. Normative, as it has to be, the authentic Italian food. Morally, like honest or sincere. Empirical, like this is more the original and not the fake one. And interpretative, about if this has a credibility. In the current discourse, authenticity is maybe no more the one real good, beautiful from the inner nucleus, but maybe more a result of a process at a certain place and time. It is maybe not something that stays forever into eternity, but it has to be something that has to be redefined all the time. And here then we are coming also to the public, of course. And this is not a descriptive attribute of an object, but maybe more a modus of perception and reflection. And it is no longer the contradiction of representation, but maybe more an effect of production processes. So the main question stays, is authenticity constructible? Well, there must be something that somebody constructed by purpose that affects another thing that we call then authentic. This is true not only in the theater. Authenticity is produced everywhere. The food industry advertises with the authentic fruit flavors of gummy bears. Tourism professional bring authentic experience into encounters with native people, and even the condom manufacturers promote with the authentic feeling. Even sneaker can provide authentic ride. Authenticity is a label for the advertising industry. But as we saw before, authenticity itself is not really constructible, so what is then constructed? I would propose to speak about the constructions of moments of authenticity. That means authenticity doesn't happen on the side of the object, but on the side of the public. The public itself, or the user, is the producer of authenticity by authenticating the object it is receiving. They are, in that moment, in a modus of authentication. How much time do I have still?
1 minute.
Good. Here come to my last thought. Our society that has a global operating authenticity industry complains a lack of authenticity, which manifests itself in the desire, the longing for authenticity, originality, and truth. But at the same time, the audience is part of its production company, actually has main part of the society of spectacles. And here we have another paradox in the context of authenticity. This kind of longing for the unbroken authenticity is a gesture of the knowing that this thing does not exist. This situation seems to be a winning one for the theater, the co-presence between actor and recipient, the co-presence of the showing and the being demands on the continually process of a playful authentication. This allows us to catch genuine moments of authenticity. So the conclusion, it is impossible to be authentic on stage, as we saw. It is also impossible to be authentic on purpose, nor on demand. Still, it's possible to construct authentic feelings for the public. Authentic is not an attribute of the performance or the story, but describes more a mode of perception of the spectator. This mode of authentication is an active, individual process of the spectator that can be supported by different strategies used in and for a performance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Imanuel Schipper.
Danke.